And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar here this afternoon from Nancy Marshall Communications. My name is Greg Glynn. I'll be your presenter here this afternoon, and we've got a good workshop presentation here planned for you. I want to welcome all our participants participating today, and we'll get started. But first, I did want to share a little bit about Nancy Marshall Communications and some of the work that we do, and you'll be able to learn more about us as I begin this PowerPoint presentation today. And one of the things that we want to share, certainly as part of this presentation, is that we do focus quite a bit on public relations and marketing. And as part of public relations, we do a lot of work with social media. Today's webinar will be about some of the best practices for social media. And our agency really is a firm here in Augusta, Maine, that empowers businesses and organizations to maximize their growth potential through the integration of sound strategies, the use of technology to make connections in our vast network of professional contacts in business and in media. And we're excited to present to our participants here today on this webinar. So, with that being said, feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we will get started here today. And again, want to thank everyone for joining us. So today's presentation really includes a general overview of social media for business, and we'll talk about what types of accounts you may want to consider using. And when you do get started with an account, we find that there are so many people that get started with the wrong type of account. It's really more about trying to find your target audience and what social media that they're using, because at the end of the day, you really want to target them. So let's make sure that you're doing that. And so today what we're going to focus on is some starter tips and advanced tips for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, these are only three of very many social media sites out there. There are well over 100 that are even quality social media websites. But for today's purposes, we know we've got a wide range of participants possibly participating. So we'll take it slow. We'll take it by each social network and then advance in our tips as we go through the webinar here this afternoon. So when it comes to social media, one of the things that's really important is, as I said, finding the right social media platform. So one of the most popular certainly is Facebook, and you will find a lot of your target audience, particularly possibly on Facebook. They are engaged with their family, their friends. A lot of people use that more than they use email, especially the younger generations who are also now, of course, moving over to Snapchat and all these other things. But it is really important before you even start a real strategy is to figure out who your target audience is, and that'll help you zone in on demographics, their age, their behaviors. The things that they're most interested in will really come through. And then we'll also talk about how to navigate each of these, because they're not all the same, and it's kind of like driving different cars. You have to kind of get behind the wheel a little bit sometimes to realize some of the features that you do or don't like, and we'll talk about that here today. Some are easier to use than others. Some require a little more attention than others, so we'll dive into that as well. And then once you do decide on the platforms that you're going to use, it's really important to make sure that you're using the same voice, and to be able to make sure that when someone comes to your Facebook page or to your Twitter account or to Instagram or Pinterest even or LinkedIn, that you've got the same voice across all of those channels. So we're going to talk about that and the importance of it. And then using your tools. So what types of tools are you using? How are you linking to your content? Are you linking to your website? Are you linking to other content? Are you using shortened links? That all really plays into how you're going to use social media. And I'll say it's really nice because Twitter has just announced that they're actually going to double the character amount for their tweets. So that will be interesting. That will open up a little bit more room. We'll go from 140 to 280. And as a copywriter, I can tell you that's going to make a huge difference for a lot of people. But the other thing that's important is to try and manage your time. You want to be efficient with the time that you're spending on social media, whether it's monitoring or whether it's responding or whether it's posting. So making sure that you have either a content calendar or you have the right people working on your social media, because if you don't, then you're going to end up scrambling, trying to come up with posts and looking at the screen and trying to figure out what should I write about today. You won't have the photo that you wish you had. And so it's really important to try and think things through. And you can even do this annually, is taking a look at, okay, what events do we do every year? Let's find the photos from those events last year and let's use those to promote the upcoming year. So little tips like that will be really helpful. And then, of course, you've got to monitor, respond, and create the conversation. Social media doesn't just happen by itself, and it does take some attention. There's no doubt about that. But I think that what's really important is that you're at least monitoring and you're posting on a regular basis. I can tell you that I have seen in several situations social media pages where you go, and the last post was from November 2013. And that's really a poor reflection of the brand, and you're going to want to avoid doing that. So even if you had that account, let's say it was a Twitter account, and you found out that that was not going to be your best social media platform, well, then I would simply delete that account. So obviously, Facebook is extremely popular and is the most popular social media network out there. And one of the things that we want to start with, some of these basic tips that we have for our participants today, is making sure that you're using the right type of page. I've presented before to larger groups where I run into people that say, well, I don't have access to Facebook Insights, for example. And the reason they don't have access to Insights is because they didn't create a business page. They are still using a personal page. And with Insights, you can get a lot more information about your audience. So you're also going to want to select a profile cover and a photo that will allow you to use your logo or your brand that will really make sure that people know they're at the right place. There are a lot of different companies and businesses out there. There could be 2 Rick's electric companies. And which Rick have you talked to? And you'd have to try and figure that out. But branding with either a profile photo of the owner or the logo, that will help with that brand identity. And then also making sure that you follow key businesses and influencers. There's obviously ways to look those types of people up and will be trending. Facebook has a new feature there that shows you some of the topics that are trending, so you want to pay attention to that. And then when you go through Facebook, it's important to come up with a post schedule. So you got to be active when you are on Facebook, because people will comment on your page, and if you're not commenting back, that's not what social media is for. So the idea is that you want to try and post with a regular basis. You also want to make sure that you're tagging some of your partners that you may work with, because then they're going to share your content. They're going to be notified that you shared a post with them in it or their content. And they're going to, again, be able to help you get the word out about whatever your message is. So make sure you're using that tagging feature, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So here's a look at a few examples of what I just talked about, where up at the top, you're going to see this section called Create a Page. And this is where you're going to want to decide, what are you? Who are you? Are you a local business or a place? And there are certain things that come along with being a place page. People can obviously check into a place. They can't necessarily sometimes check in to a artist or band or celebrity figure. You can't do that. So the type of page will make a difference in who you are and what you're trying to promote. So you'll see there's companies or organizations, there's brands or products, there's causes or communities, and then there's entertainment, and then there is that celebrity box. We have worked with a few celebrities in the past, and there are definitely features there that you can take advantage of for all our celebrities out there that may be participating today. The other thing that's important is how to tag people or businesses or organizations, and that's down in that lower part of the page where it's how to tag. An @ sign will allow you to then start typing a word, and then what will happen is the organizations that start with that word will start to populate in the drop-down menu. So there you can see the word social was typed in, so then you'll get social media breakfast, social media club, social media week, and you can see exactly how that goes. But if you wanted to talk about the social media breakfast coming up, you'd be able to do that, and you'd be able to tag that event in that organization. So then the other thing is obviously, the status. We've all seen this, and sometimes for copywriters it can be a daunting task when it tells you to write something and you don't know what you want to write. So that's again why I really would recommend a strategy, whether it's a 6-month or 3-month even catalog of posts, predetermined content that you're going to use will really help you with that. And then of course you've got the publish button there in the blue, and I think that's really important for people to use. You can schedule posts. So if you know that your audience is on, for example, at 8 o'clock at night and they don't typically log on during the day, maybe your target audience is someone that has a 9-to-5 job typically, then you'd want to post when they're on Facebook, which would be maybe late at night. You can see those insights through Facebook and get that information. There's a lot of information out there. So make sure you take advantage of that as a business page. And then, of course, you can see what Coca-Cola has done when it comes to that profile page I was talking about. They've got their logo, and we've got obviously some branding here with their new bottles that have names on them. So that's fun, and you know you're at the right page. You can also, of course, send a message to a business or an organization using Facebook. So here are some more advanced tips, and I think that this is really important to know that these tools exist so that you can maximize them. And one of them is the insights, which I've referenced a little bit before, but this is critical to your success and understanding who is actually visiting your page. I've seen pages that skew 80% women, and that to me says you really want to write for that target audience. So make sure that you're captivating their attention versus if you're putting out generic posts, that may be not as eye-catching to them. You may also want to consider age, which you can find out through insights. You can find out if there are people on your page that are under 25, for example, and they have totally different buying behavior or interests than the people that are going to be the 54 plus, by the way, which is the most fastest growing segment right now on Facebook. And I like to say this jokingly, but it's also true, is that a lot of parents are getting on Facebook to keep up with either their children or their grandchildren. So you'll see quite a bit of an audience in that range as well. There's also, of course, organic versus paid. A lot of people now are realizing that Facebook is the place to be if you want to start doing some advertising. You can be very effective. Versus organic, sometimes we'll have clients that will say, well, we're posting, but it doesn't seem as though we're getting anybody to pay attention. We only have 30 views on this post. Well, when you start paying for posts, you'll be surprised at the traffic that you're going to get. And tied into paid is this concept between sponsored and boosted posts. Sponsored posts and ads, if you will, really, are on that right-hand side. And those are going to be ads that attract your attention. You'll have a visual. It's kind of within the frame of the Facebook page. Versus boosted posts are more of an opportunity to take a post you felt did fairly well organically perhaps and use maybe $25, $50, $100. We've boosted posts for even more than that. But you'd be surprised at the amount of success that you're going to have using advertising versus organic. And Facebook has made it that way. So if you're not doing it now, I would say that today is a really good day to start to make that investment. And then also how to write content that will stand out. So it's really important that you aren't just putting content up there to put it up there on Facebook and say that you have a Facebook page. You want to make and create content that's going to engage your users. Think about some of the things that they care about. What are they most passionate about? So that you can then take a look at those things and be able to really resonate with your target audience. And again, I think one of the big things that I'm going to mention throughout here today is you've got to be authentic. If you aren't being authentic and you aren't true to yourself or true to your brand, people are going to recognize that and they are not going to participate as much as you would like. So here's a little view of what I was talking about with Facebook Insights up there at the top of the page. You're able to see, total page likes. So are you going up or down? Did you have a lot of posts and did that lead to a lot more traffic or likes this month? Or did you post too much and people were getting a little frustrated, so they decided not to like your page anymore? You can learn that information right there through those Facebook Insights. You can also find out how many people liked a certain post or how many people commented on it, how many people shared it. There's a ton of information with Facebook Insights, and it's up at the top of your Facebook page. If you have a business page, you'll see the word Insights, and that'll be what you want to click on. The other thing that's important to note is, as I was talking about this boosted post, and where you see this red arrow here that says select. So you can actually target people who either already like your page and their friends, so kind of getting that second opinion, if you will, or endorsement from one of their friends could be very important for you. If they like, your post, and then a friend sees it and they say, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that, Sally liked Nancy Marshall Communications. I should take a look at them too." And so then they would attract your friends over to be an audience you could find as a similar audience as well. Then there's another option, which is people you choose through targeting. So if here at Nancy Marshall Communications, we wanted to specifically target women CEOs and that wanted to do business in marketing or had companies that we thought should be using marketing or marketing services, we would then go into that button and we would choose it based on location. So if we wanted to do only Maine, or if we wanted to do across the country, if we wanted to do based on age, so we know that a CEO is typically going to be, a little bit on the older side rather than, the younger side. Also gender, so we can target just female if we wanted to do that. And then you also have language as well. I mean, Facebook is huge. Again, it is worldwide, tons of users across the entire globe. So there are different options available. And this is only just a few here. You can actually click into more options and drill down on income, on their interests, on their behavior. I was actually doing one where you can actually find out who's bought a used car recently. That's how targeted these things can get. And then you can enter your budget. You can set this up with a credit card and be able to pay that way. It makes it really easy. So the next topic I wanted to talk about is the social media platform, of course, which is Twitter, which is all abuzz lately with, like I said, doubling the amount of space you have for your posts from 140 to 280. And this is important when it comes to the same type of thing I was talking about with Facebook, where you don't want to have a personal page. You actually want to create a business page. And this will give you a little bit more information so that you can, again, similar to Facebook, digest who's coming to your page, find out about the target audiences. You can find out, again, same thing, demographics. You can find out when they're on. You can find out the post that they clicked or shared or retweeted. So that's really important, is making sure you set it up correctly. And then just like with Facebook, you're going to want to set up your profile. You're going to want to be active on Twitter, in my mind, enough so that you can get your message out there. But I don't think this one is not as active a place, or you don't have to be as active as you are on Facebook. I think Facebook requires you at least to post once a week. Twitter, you can get away with a little bit less, but if you do it correctly and you do start to post more frequently, people are going to expect that from you. So if you're a business that is going to be responding to customer service complaints or feedback on Twitter, you're going to need to be paying attention to that account all the time. The next thing is character limit. Like I said, they just expanded that, so it's very exciting. But you can also, if you find it still hard with the 280, you can certainly shorten your links, and there are some tools I'm going to share to be able to do that. So when you log into Twitter, you go in, you log in. I will caution you to not maybe necessarily use the Remember Me button or the box there. A lot of Twitter accounts have been hacked. I'm sure you've heard about that. This is one way that accounts are getting hacked, is people are saying, remember me, and then they're forgetting they logged in, or their account stays logged in, and that is causing a problem and allowing people to get in there and hack the account. So make sure you are not checking that box. I would recommend, especially for your business. The other thing here is making sure, as you see here with the header photo and the profile photo, making sure you brand your page appropriately. You also pick a name or your business name, and then you do get a handle. And this is something you really want to think about carefully, because people have to be able to understand or associate your brand with that handle, as they call it. So making sure you pick something that's easy to understand is really important here. Don't lose sight of that, and don't just try and come up with something on the spot. That's something you're going to want to really think out. And you should also look at maybe other organizations that are similar to yours or have a similar name, so that you realize whether or not you're too close or someone maybe already has it, so you can come up with a different one. You can also change your theme colors and do a lot of different things with Twitter. So once you do get started, you'll want to compose tweets, and you can see here that you've got options with sample tweets, and you can obviously put up a photo. You could put up a GIF, which is a kind of a motion picture, and then you can also see kind of who's on. You can also put a location with your tweet, and then of course you would tweet over here, and you can use emotions or emojicons if you would like. We also want to mention that it's really important to make your links, if you do have them, to make them shortened if you can't fit them. So some people have really long URLs, which is, you know, the page and how you would find a page name. So making sure that your URL isn't extremely long, and if it is, you're going to have to shorten it. So when you do that, you can use places like Bitly or Owly here, who's done by Hootsuite, to shrink the URL. And that'll take your URL from, let's say, 100 characters to down to about 20, which makes quite a bit of difference when you're dealing with the number of characters that Twitter gives you. So keep that in mind as a helpful tool. As far as Twitter advanced tools go, I again want to mention they do offer analytics similar to Facebook, which is really helpful. They also have a program called TweetDeck, and TweetDeck really helps you keep organized with all the activity, and the information that gets shared on Twitter is amazing. You could sit on Twitter in 2 seconds and you wouldn't be able to read all of the tweets coming in, because it just happens so fast. So making sure you're using TweetDeck is a really good idea. That's also a great way to monitor a tweet chat. If you've never had one, great idea, especially if you're talking about a certain topic that is newsworthy and may relate to your target audience, not only here in Maine if you're a Maine business, but if you're a national company. It's a great networking opportunity. You can tag people. So similar to tagging on Facebook, you can use the @ sign, and you can actually tag individuals on Twitter rather, and they'll know that you've tagged them. They'll actually get a message that says someone has tagged you in their tweet, and that will allow you then to make sure they see your message and they'll be aware of it. We use this actually with media pitching, a little helpful tip for you. If you're trying to get in touch with a journalist, it can be sometimes hard to get through to them by email. They receive so much email. But if you go to their least cluttered inbox, you will find that a lot of media are on Twitter. It's a great place for pitching. I've actually been using it recently and found really good success with it. And then you can also use lists. So this is a cool tool if you are working in a specific industry where there's a niche market and you want to, for example, have everyone that is tweeting about mental health. And you would be able to see in one list all the people. So you add people to that list. So these are influencers, maybe in the mental health field. You're able to bring them in. You have to add them yourself. But if you put on there, let's say, the top 25 influencers, you then can go right to that list and you'll be able to see all of their tweets just for those people. So you'll know who you really want to try and engage with. So here's a lot of information on this page, but I did want to make sure we showcase some of this information. I want to credit Meg Crowder on our team, who does a great job with our social and is really a social guru for us for putting these slides together. She put together what you can see there are some analytics from Twitter, where you can see the number of tweet impressions, the profile visits, as well as some more information on followers, what's trending. So are you trending upward in your follower count? Are you going down? So that's important information to know based on what you did for the month or the week. It'll also tell you what your top tweet was, especially for the month. So this is really important if you are trying to figure out what's resonating with your audience. And if you know that a certain tweet you thought was going to be awesome, and I've had this happen, you thought it was going to be awesome, you thought people were going to retweet it like crazy, and then nobody does, or it gets very little activity, then you're going to want to know that. So if you look at another tweet and you say, wow, I didn't think that was going to be so successful, but look at that. It got this many shares and this many people were able to retweet it. And, oh, I wonder who did. And you can go in and you can find those accounts. And then you can follow them to create that engagement, which is so important. That is a really important piece about social media, is creating the engagement. It's not a one-way conversation. So below this here is what we call this information about how you can basically set up lists, or you can set up, this is very similar to TweetDeck, where you can actually look at your posts and decide on what categories. So you've got messages, you've got activity, you can see who's tweeting to you or tweeting at you or tweeting about a certain topic. And that really allows you to kind of, in my mind, filter out a lot of the tweets that you might not necessarily care about to be able to then find more relevant information. And then up here at the top is also, again, notifications. So this is where you can create these lists that I was talking about. So if you want to do that, you go over to your profile and then you select lists, and you'll be able to add a list, create a list, add people to lists. And that's a great way to be able to, again, like I said, keep your Twitter account organized. So then the next one I wanted to talk about today is getting started with Instagram. And Instagram is, in my mind, kind of starting to get into the space where they rebranded, and I think they are really working hard to try and create this chemistry with Facebook as they work together. And you can actually have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, and they can post the same photos. And in this situation, what I wanted to talk about was that businesses are starting to use Instagram, especially when it comes to visual businesses or visual organizations that have great content to share. So you could be doing a campaign about the environment, for example, and you would show wonderful pictures of green landscapes or healthy trees, or you may show something that relates to a natural disaster, or something where you want to be able to see the visual impact and you want to encourage action. So the Red Cross in this example may want to, show all this awful situation with the hurricane, but if they were ever looking for donations and support right now to support the Red Cross and relief efforts, this would be a great medium for them to be able to use to get those images out there. You can also, of course, add details to your business page, so you do get a bit of text to talk about your company or your organization. Similar to Facebook and Twitter, you can also post and schedule and use tags. Now, tagging is important here, but I will also say that hashtags are really important. Going back to Twitter a little bit, hashtags are a great way to sort out content for a certain topic. And that's the same thing here with Instagram. So you could actually do stuff like wedding, hashtag wedding, and you would see people from around the country that have used the hashtag wedding and the photos that they have, or maybe wedding ideas that they have. Also, you can do direct messages. Similar to Twitter, you can get in touch with individuals or businesses using direct messages, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But then there also are certain things where you can use different filters or carousels and tell stories using Instagram. And I think this is Instagram starting to evolve a little bit, obviously with Snapchat, which is out there and really hot right now, not only in the younger demographic, but starting to grow substantially, in my mind, among the middle-aged demographic as well. So you'll be able to do some of those things using your Instagram account now, which you weren't able to do in the past. So here's a look at the Visit Maine page, which is the Maine Office of Tourism's official Instagram page. And of course, you can see there that even in the description of the page, that you're going to see that they've put the hashtag main thing, because that is a hashtag that the Office of Tourism uses for people when they are talking about Maine or when they're talking about their trip to Maine. That is an example of a hashtag that gets used. So if you come to Maine, you have a wonderful time, or you're on your trip and you find your Maine thing, or you find something you really enjoy doing, you could use hashtag Maine thing. I've used Maine thing for the Portland Sea Dogs. That's one of my favorite things to do here in Maine. So I encourage you to use hashtags, certainly on Instagram. And you can see some of the wonderful photos there. Photos are so important on Instagram. If you don't have good photos on Instagram, your account is not going to be popular. Obviously, you can see the Maine Office of Tourism's Instagram page, very popular, with the over 40,000 followers. And then you also want to try and make sure that your photography looks its best. So that's where these filters come into play. And so if maybe you didn't get the best shot, or you want to maybe spruce it up a little bit, fall foliage, of course, very popular time in Maine for colors. And you can see some incredible colors there in that photo related to foliage. And I'm sure a lot of people will be using those filters as September rolls through, and October. And so we'll take a look here at also some of the other features that you can use on Instagram. You can, of course, heart, or that's essentially the way of liking something. If you were to try and make the comparison to Facebook, you can use hearts to be able to do that. So when it comes to some advanced tools for Instagram, it is important to know that you can follow influencers, and really you want to encourage this user-generated content. User-generated content is really empowering your brand ambassadors, the people that are so passionate about your brand. So when that comes to mind for me, I think a lot about LL Bean, and that they have really created a very strong following, and people rave about their products, whether it's a tent, whether it's a backpack. I've got a 5-year-old, and I know that she's very proud to have an LL Bean backpack, but being able to share her first day of school, going off to school with her backpack, that's tremendous user-generated content that's getting shared on these platforms, especially like Instagram, where you're able to see brands in a different way than just simply having the brand talk about itself. So when it comes to user-generated content, you want to think about the ways you can create that. Right? So I manage certainly some social media accounts, and wouldn't I love it? I would be through the roof if I could get more people to be able to send in content or to post their own content, to be able to support the messages that we are trying to, as a brand or an organization, try to get out there. So think about how you can engage those people that are most passionate about your products or your service. It can be even a contest if you wanted to run some type of contest to have people submit photos or videos. You know, you go back and you think about the Ice Bucket Challenge and what that did for ALCS. I mean, that is just incredible. And ALS, that campaign was one of the most successful in the history of social media, and it was about user-generated content. And they were able to get people to take action with a simple task of, simple but cold task of dumping an ice bucket of water on your head. And it was fun. And that is exactly what we're talking about with user-generated content. Similar to Twitter and Facebook, you can use hashtags, and we very much encourage that, especially with Instagram. Facebook, I will say, going back a little bit to Facebook and the hashtags, is it was trying to catch on, and they made a big deal of it when it happened. But I still think your best place to use hashtags and to use that real estate that's so valuable is really in Twitter and Instagram, certainly. And you can also search by location. So if you wanted to find Maine photos, you can search and find Maine photos on Instagram, again, by location. You can drill down to city or state. And then they also offer business analytics and business manager. So similar to Facebook and Twitter, where you can find out information about your customers or your target audience, you're able to do that using the analytics that they offer. And can be really important when you're trying to figure out who is visiting your page and what are they most interested in, or what photos, what type of photography has gotten the most engagement. So here's a few examples what I'm talking about. So where you want to search, if you are looking for content, for example, if you're the main office of tourism and you're wondering, oh, what kind of content do we have, you can find out obviously a lot of things by using your own hashtag. So main thing, and oftentimes we will get influencers that come into the state and they love the outdoors, and they will tweet using that hashtag, or they will tweet using their own hashtag, but you can find content based on location and people. So if this person, Daniel Allen, is a really important person that we wanted to follow, and or we knew posted great photos, I mean, think about all the photographers that are out there that use something like Instagram, and you can probably find more photographers for your organization using Instagram. So it's also a networking tool. And then you can also find if there was, Instagram posts that were around a certain place. So if you're hosting an event, let's say it's in Farmington, Maine, and you want to know, show me pictures from people's Instagram accounts in Farmington, Maine, you can do that. So for this, you think about like the example for the Beach to Beacon, where you know that everyone is there. There's a specific location where they have visited. You're going to get all that content. Now, I will also caution, when you are using all of this content, or you're going to attempt to use this content, you do need to make sure that you're using content appropriately. So you can't just go and find somebody's Twitter account or Instagram account or Facebook account and take a photo off their page. It really is a relationship that you need to have in place. There are several copyright issues that come into play, so make sure before you go and repost or you grab a photo that you are getting permission to use that photo. So make sure you do consider that. That can get you into a whole heap of trouble. So, but again, you can see in the middle here where we've targeted with a pin Farmington, and you can see a lot of these photos here that are from the Farmington area. Some nice pugs there, Superman costume, getting ready for Halloween, it looks like. And then you can also find some of the top posts when it comes to a hashtag. So that's what this is over here on the right-hand side with hashtag main thing. And you're able to see people that came to Maine, used or live in Maine, and they used the hashtag main thing. And interesting post here, so many people are so creative on Instagram. I think you get a lot of very creative people that use this platform, but using it, especially with that person's finger and kind of pointing at what their main thing is, it really is an eye-catching image. Obviously, so are the beautiful sunsets, but using Instagram, and because, of course, you really don't get that same amount of text, or people, it's not a text-based platform in my mind like Twitter or Facebook is, where you're using words to really captivate or engage people. Instagram is much more a visual concept. So very, very cool photos there, and something that you can certainly use to your advantage when using Instagram. So one of the things that I wanted to do today, and certainly as we recap what we've talked about today, is the emphasis that really comes with using social media and creating a strategy. If you don't have a strategy for your social media accounts, that is going to be a real challenge for you to be able to get buy-in from either your organization, maybe it could be your board, it could be your staff, making sure that everybody is on the same page. And I think that's really important about who the voice is and what you're going to say, what you're going to promote. Here at Nancy Marshall Communications, we work very closely with our clients on a product we call the Marshall Plan, which is a PR and marketing strategy that is a 3-year plan. So we will oftentimes talk about that quite a bit in our post. But I think that it's important to have a strategy, because if you don't, you're really going to find yourself stumbling through making posts and wondering what you should post next. The other thing that I think really comes through today and should be something to think about as you move forward is the use of video. Now, we didn't get into things like YouTube and Facebook Live today, which are really popular and can be very important if you are trying to get a video message out there or you want to be as authentic as possible, like I talked about earlier. That's really an important place to be able to do that. And using video right now is key. And I think webinars too, like this is a great platform if you are a business or an organization that has content to share, you're experts in your field. This is a great way to be able to do it, is through these webinars. And then, of course, LinkedIn, for businesses and organizations, LinkedIn is a great social media site where you're going to be able to connect with potential job seekers, or whether it's coworkers, and build your social network using LinkedIn. This is a much more professional platform than Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, where you could end up watching a lot of cat videos if you're not careful. It is important to make sure that you have an idea of what, again, like I said, going back to your strategy, who is your target audience and what are you trying to get across, and what's the ultimate goal? What are you trying to do? You're trying to convert into sales? You're trying to get people to support you or support your mission? Those are the things you need to think about as part of your strategy. So with that being said, we're going to open it up for questions now, where we have people, participants online that have come to our webinar, and we're excited to have you. So if anyone does have any questions, I can take those now. And let's see if we have any questions here today. Nothing yet at the moment. But as I said earlier, I think if you think about social media in the sense that it really is important to make sure that you have a strategy. And the other thing about that strategy is getting the right people in the right seats. So who's going to make those posts? You shouldn't have an intern be making social media posts. You should make sure you also have a social media policy. And I think this is something that often gets overlooked and is really important for people to understand. So what is a social media policy? Well, there's actually two different kinds of social media policies. One is the internal social media policy. So what is it that your business or your organization allows your staff to do? That means, what are you allowed to post about? What are you not allowed to post about? Who is allowed to post? Those types of things. The other type of social media policy is an external social media policy. And this means this is what you put on your website to tell people what type of things that you are using your social media for. And it tells people that this is why you're using social media. And it also is a great way to make sure they understand that if they break the rules that you have created, or if they are not playing along and participating in the way that you intended, that you can actually have consequences for that. And this can be when you get a situation like trolling, where someone will come on and they will try to attack your brand, or they will start up a rumor, or they will maybe have negative comments. And if they use obviously inappropriate language, you would never want to continue to have a long rant on your page that would have that type of content. So it allows you to then make a post that says, so-and-so has violated our social media policy, and then you can link to it. And then that way people know, oh, okay, that person clearly did something wrong. Maybe I should take a look at what the policy is, and then be able to have that, so that people understand. Not only, it's not just about the person who made the post, it's actually also more about the audience that's watching. Everybody is watching you. You as a brand, how do you behave? How do you respond to adversity is really important. So with that being said, looks like we don't have any questions today, but I did want to make sure that we had a chance to connect with everyone. I really appreciate you tuning into this webinar today. I think webinars are going to be a really great way for businesses and organizations to connect with their customers and with their influencers on certain topics. So I hope you have enjoyed this webinar and the presentation today. You can learn more about Nancy Marshall Communications at marshallpr.com. Thanks everyone for attending, and have a great day.